so-called great power competition with China and Russia to prevent them from becoming competitors, to prevent them from having significant political and economic influence around the world. It is not hyperbole to say that the U.S. goal is to maintain unipolar hegemony over the entire planet, or as people in the Pentagon used to say, they use the term full spectrum dominance. That is the U.S. goal, full spectrum dominance. And that is why now the U.S. is waging economic war on both China and Russia. It is waging an information war against both China and Russia. And unfortunately, it has escalated to a military proxy war against Russia.
I don't know if we have to talk about China's growing in Latin America. Some politicians in Washington, especially many in the Trump administration, accuse China of doing neocolonialism in Latin America. Now, you've lived and reported in the region for quite a while. Is that what you see?
No, it is ridiculous. And I have to say, this is a classic example of what psychologists refer to as projection. The Western colonialist powers, which committed genocide across the planet, which colonized the global South, they're now accusing their so-called competitor, China, of the same crimes that they themselves committed. It is an absolutely absurd example of hypocrisy and psychological projection. The reality is that the U.S. government considers Latin America to be its so-called backyard with this very colonialist rhetoric, or Joe Biden recently referred to Latin America as the U.S. front yard, but it still reflects this very colonialist mentality that is enforced in this idea, embodied in this idea called the Monroe Doctrine. The U.S. government claims it has for 200 years, since the 1820s, that Latin America is part of its so-called sphere of influence, and no other major power is allowed to have bilateral relations with countries in Latin America. Now, if you actually listen to what people in Latin America have to say, they have a completely different view. A lot of people in Latin America, especially progressives and leftists, but even some people who are leaning to the right wing politically, they say, look, we have the right to have economic and political ties with China and Russia and Iran and India and any other power, because we are not colonists. We are independent countries. And more in the region, we see people, not only the progressive anti-imperialist forces like in Latin America, in Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Cuba, but also we see people like the Argentine president, who is a kind of center-left president, Alberto Fernandez. He just took a historic trip to both China and Russia, and now Argentina, which is the third largest economy in Latin America, is becoming part of the Belt and Road Initiative. This is an example of how people in Latin America, even right-wing presidents, like the former president of Chile, Sebastián Piñera, are saying to Washington, look, we have independent foreign policy, we have our own economic interests, and we want to do business with countries like China and Russia. And by the way, the difference is, when we in Latin America, they say, when we do business with China, it actually helps to build infrastructure in the region, whereas over 200 years of U.S. domination of Latin America, we've seen de-development as opposed to development of the region.
Yeah, obviously the Western countries go to Latin America or Africa for quote-unquote international development, and China is going there obviously for neocolonialism. Now, finally then, let's talk about the rise of China. Many in the West fear China's rise. And let's face it, the perception against China among the Western citizens, residents, are getting increasingly negative. But despite the fact that China repeatedly said it does not seek political hegemony